Hey everyone, good morning. Today we will be covering custom settings first and then custom metadata. Okay, so custom settings, yesterday we discussed custom label. Custom labels are basically a text static value which we use and modify outside of our code, but we can use it inside our code as well. So in a way, it changes the behavior of our code, or it changes the way our code is working, but that trigger point is outside of the code. Similar to custom labels, we have custom settings as well. Now, custom label was very limited in terms of it only has one value field, but custom settings are more flexible than custom labels, and it provides you a object-like structure where you can create fields and then you can use those fields for your own purpose. Okay, the basics remain same. You will have a functionality by which you can modify the behavior of your code even without touching that code. So you will have a custom setting which you can modify or create or update outside of your code, but those updates will obviously change the behavior of your code. Okay, so it gives a lot of functionality to developers, to administrators, so to put such thing which can exist outside of the code. So even if in future they need to update something, they need not to go to the code. Okay, more like custom labels as well, but in a better manner and in more flexible manner. Okay, now custom settings are of two type. One is list custom setting and the other one is hierarchical custom setting. Okay, so we will first talk about list custom setting and later on we will talk about hierarchical custom setting. Okay, now if we go to setup and try to write custom settings, there is no custom setting yet. Let me create a new one. And here you can say that you can see that in the settings type only hierarchy is the option and there is no other option to select. It's completely grayed out. Okay, so there was two options earlier: list custom setting and hierarchical custom setting. Now what Salesforce is doing that, because whatever we do with the list custom setting we can also do with the custom metadata. Salesforce is promoting custom metadata, so because of the multiple reasons, because of the more flexibility it provides, so by default, you will not get an option to create the list type of custom setting. It will only give you an option to create the hierarchy. Okay. But for the learning purpose, we will have to create. So there is an option schema builder, schema settings. From the schema settings, you can enable this option to create the list custom setting as well. Okay. So if we enable this, we will get an option to create lists custom setting as well. And there are a couple of other features, like if you want to restrict access to custom metadata type and then want to provide access only to those users which you want to, then you can restrict it. You can also restrict access to custom setting. Okay, we will talk about that later. So I have enabled list custom setting. Now let's go back to custom settings and see if we can create a custom setting. Now you can see that this grade option is no longer grade and you have two options. Okay, so I can now create a list custom setting. Now let's understand the scenario for which scenario we will be creating a list custom setting. Okay, so very classical example is country code mapping. Okay, where you have, let's say, country name and the code associated with it. Okay, so on the UI or on somewhere else, your users will enter the country name, but in the backend you will have to convert that country name to the country code and process your logic based on the country code. Okay, now user will not understand country code. Okay, so you'll have to give them the country name and you will have to somewhere in your code make that mapping. Okay, so if I go to my code and if I'll have to execute something like this, so what will I do? Ideally, I will write it like this. Okay, if country name is equals to, let's say, India, then I will change the country name to, let's say, IN. Similarly, else if for other country, we will say if country name is, let's say, United States, we will write it as US. Else if, and let's similarly, we have 300 countries, then we will have to break it in a way that we have logic for each country, and that also will be a hard-coded one. Okay, and it will be a very bad approach to do. Now, one option is that you can store this information in your custom object and you can change that. That is also possible. But custom metadata or custom settings give you flexibility to do not even create those fields in outside if there is a mapping. Because what happens is that, let's say you have to do this for account, then in account you will create a mapping, country name, country code mapping. Okay, so let's say country name is already available, but you will have to create a field for country code. Okay, and then you have to do that mapping in the Apex trigger or wherever you want. But the limitation is that first you will have to unnecessarily create a field on custom object, which can easily be avoided by the custom setting. Second, if you will have to, let's say, reuse this functionality for contact object, for opportunity object, then you will have to repeat the same thing for same other objects as well. By using the custom settings, you can reutilize this particular functionality on other objects as well. Okay, so we will see how we can create a country code mapping. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will create a custom setting. I will name it as country code mapping. It will be of list type. And let's not put anything else. Visibility is public. I am going to use it only for myself. Otherwise, you can also make it protected as well. Now, just the custom metadata has been created. I will now create fields in it. So these are the only data type available when you create field in custom setting. Okay, text, text area, URL, checkbox, currency. The major miss here is pick list. Pick list is not available. Okay, so we will remember that. Okay, let's say text name. And again, it will be country code. So we will have a country code associated with each country. Okay, and we will create a list here of that country code mapping so that in our code, whenever we get a country, we will have a corresponding country code associated in this custom metadata. That's it. That's the whole purpose. And you can even expand it. So for each country, you may have a certain number of discount percentage. So you can have another field which will have a discount percentage. So you will not only map it with the country, but also with the discount associated with it. You need not to store that data. So for, let's say, India, you have a default discount as 10%. For USA, you have a default discount as 8%. So you need not to store that data somewhere in your custom object. You can store that data in your custom metadata or custom settings. Okay, we will use same example in custom settings as well. So let's say we also want to have a percentage discount percentage. Okay, length will be 2, decimal place is 0, and we will save this. Now we have created the metadata. Now we will have to create records for it. Okay, how we create records? We will go to manage and we will create records here. So let's say we are creating first record for country name India. Okay, let's name it country 1, country name is India, country code is IN, discount percentage is 10. Okay, so we have hard coded this value and we will use it in our code. Let's say you have a discount handler class where you will get the input as country name. Okay, and then on account you will have to populate the discount as well as the country code. Okay, so you will get the data from the custom metadata, you will match it with the country name, and then you will find the associated country code and the discount, and then update the account based on it. So whole mapping related thing is not stored in your object because that is the logic execution part. You store that in custom metadata. You can reuse it somewhere else. And the advantage is, let's say in future you will have to change the discount percentage for a particular country. You need not to go to your Apex class. You can directly go to your custom settings and the record you will find on which you have to update and will update outside of your code. But let's say you change it to from 10 to 12. Now your code calculation will happen based on 12 percentage, not based on 10%. So you changed your code outside of your Apex class, yet that change actually impacted the behavior of your Apex class. Okay, that is the main purpose of it. So let's say we have created country 1. Let's create one more country. Country 2. Name is United States. Country code is US. Discount percentage is, let's say, 20%. Save it. Now we have created 2 records in our custom settings. Now we will see how do we get the custom settings in our code, because that is an important point. Okay, so we will open the Salesforce document to see the custom settings method. Okay, list custom settings. You need not to remember all these things. Whichever things are already available there, you should just have an idea and then you should know how you can find it. That's it. So there are multiple methods in the custom settings. We will go to the list custom settings and you can see that there are 3 methods: get all, get instance, and get values. Okay. One by one, we will see how it works. Okay. Just a second. Let me reply this chat.
Sir, for hierarchy custom setting, we have another method or we can call by the same.
Yeah, we have other methods as well for hierarchy. So on the hierarchy custom settings, if you see, you have couple of more methods, because hierarchical custom setting based also gives you a functionality to change the behavior based on profile and based on user. We will talk about it shortly.
Oh,
Okay, sorry. Hierarchical custom setting is completely different from custom metadata and list custom setting. Hierarchical, whichever hierarchical custom setting provides, custom metadata cannot do that thing. Okay, so we will see that thing happening in front of our eyes. Okay.
okay, sir.
Now, what we are going to do is that we will see all these 3 methods and how they work. Okay. List custom settings method. And if you want to go through this document, this is really good. It will be. So first method is get all method. This returns a map of data set defined in the custom setting. Okay. So we will use this method. This returns a map of what? String or ID. Let's open this custom setting so that we'll be able to get the API name. Okay, this is the API name. So it will be a map of string and the name of your custom metadata, custom settings, and we can call it country code mapping. And here we go. We can also query them, but first we will use the method. Okay. So we will use the get all method. Okay. And how do we actually get it is, and you can, in this also, you can go and see how it is giving you data. Okay, so in the get all, you can see here that it returns the map of string and the name of your custom setting. Okay, so that's how we're gonna do that. So if I have to get data from it, I'll have to put the name of my custom settings and then put the get all. Okay, and then I'm going to debug this. Mhm. Let's execute and see if it works. Okay, so you can see now you've got all the records which are available in that particular custom setting. First, you got the country name. Okay, so on the key side of it, you will get the name of it, like whichever name you provided when you created it. This is the key. On the key side, you will get the name of it. This is the standard field. Okay, this is the standard name you get when you create a custom setting. This is the key side of it. Okay, and then on the value side, you will get everything like discount percentage, like ID, and the name of it. And then we will see how we can get the other things as well. Okay, so if you see that, is related name, you got the country name, that's what we need. We got the country code, that's what we need, and we need percentage as well, right? So that's what we got here. Okay, these are the things we need to get. Okay, now we will again go back to this and we will see the other methods. Okay, now first is get values, get instance or get values. Okay, see, they both return same. They both return a particular data set of a custom setting. Okay, so here with the get all, we got everything, but let's say we just want to get the country one related things. Okay, so in that case, what we will do is we will create a uh, just one record with the get value. So instead of map, we will just get one record, country code mapping. We will name it country one, and from here we will write country code mapping dot get values, and inside that you can pass the particular record whichever you want to get. So I want to get country one, the name which I provided here we have to put, okay, because this is the key which will search it. Okay, so if I provide country one, this should give me the name of it. Okay, let me just write down the system.debug. All right, let's see if we are able to execute this. Okay, sorry. We've got the country one, and we will get everything because this is list. We will get everything in it. Okay, now if I just want to get a particular data inside from it, like not just the whole list, I just want to get the, let's say, the discount percentage associated with it or the country name associated with it, then what will I do? So in that case, let's say I want to get the country name. Okay, like, or the country code, whichever. So those are text values, so I'll write it down as a string. I'll write country code 1. Okay, I want to get the country code associated with the country one. So first we have to get the country one dot whatever the name of that particular field is. Okay, so for that we will go to the custom setting and we will copy the API name. So what is the country code? See, ideally you have already got this list, so you can get it from here. I am showing you if you have to directly pull this, that to, so that's what you can use. Okay. If you already have the list, we can obviously fetch from here there as well. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, this should give us country code for India. Okay, we've got the country code for India. Now, the way we've got it from the get values, we can also get it from get instance as well. Okay, they both are same for the custom settings, list custom setting. Okay, their behavior is bit different when we go to the hierarchical, but for the custom settings, they both returns same. So if I, instead of using the get values, if I use, let's say, get instance, country one by instance. Okay, now let's debug that. Now let's execute just this part. It should give me the list value of it. Okay, so we've got the country one by instance and the value will be same. Now let us see if we can query it or not. Okay, we've tried everything, but let's try to query this as well. Okay, okay, list of my custom setting, let's call it country code list, goes to select ID, comma name, comma country code, comma country name, comma discount percentage, from your custom setting. Okay, so for that we already have, this is my custom setting name, and now let's debug this. Okay, system.debug. Okay, see, I always do debugs like this to get the difference between my value and have a space between what I put here. Okay, but this is not the only way, like whatever makes you comfortable. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so we are getting results. We've got the list via query as well. So sometimes they ask in an interview, can you use software query in a custom setting? Yes, we can use SOQL queries to get custom settings, and whatever SOQL queries we do in the custom settings also does not increase the count as well. But the problem with is that we should always use the methods associated, because It is easier to get the values via method. Custom settings also supports the application cache. That means that if you will use the methods defined by it, it will be able to fetch it from the cache as well, and performance will be faster. Whereas in the SOQL query, you will have to again every time go back to database and fetch the records. So if it is possible to fetch it something from the see, whatever list we got, we can get here as well, right? We got here as well. First one was the get values, or you will get the map here as well. So from there also you will get everything. If you'll have to loop through it, there are multiple ways to do that. If you'll have to loop through this, then it's not necessary that you query, but querying is also possible. Now, there is one more thing I want to check with it. Okay, normally we don't do that. So can we update the SOQL, can we update the custom settings in Apex? That is, I want to check. Okay. So what I want to do is, let's say we got the country code one dot, not here. Let's say I am going to loop through this. Okay. What I want to check here is that if I loop through this and update a value in custom settings, will I be able to update or not? Okay. So I want to update parental tree, because sometimes they ask this as well in an interview and I want to practically do it. Okay. So I have looped through all the records we've got in the country code list. And what I want to do is current country code dot discount percentage is, let's say, 30%. I want to update it as 30%. Okay. And then create a list of it. Update list of it. Here, updating the percentage. Let me add this in the loop and update this list outside of the loop. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's execute this. So what I did is that we are checking if we can update the custom settings record inside Apex or not. Okay, so code was successfully able to execute, and we have changed the discount percentage for all the records to 30%. Okay, and it should update. Okay, so let's see if it is getting updated or not. Country one. Discount percentage is 30. We put for India, we put just the 10%, and now it is updated as 30. So sometimes interviewer asks this tricky question that can we update the custom setting records in our Apex? Yes, we can do that, but we should never do that, because there is a reason why we are using that custom setting, so that we have a flexibility to update our code outside of update the behavior of our code from the outside settings. Why will we update the custom settings here, right? So that does not make much sense. Although we can do that, there will be cases you might need to, let's say you've got a business requirement that, okay, let's do it for every country, give the same percentage for, let's say, a month. So for that period, you can have this logic and update it everyone instead of going one by one to all the records. Okay. So that is it. Now I have a couple of questions on custom settings. So first, let's go through those questions and see. So here I have added couple of questions on custom settings. Most of these questions are related to list custom setting. So let us first cover the hierarchical and then we will come to the questions. Okay. Nice. So what is hierarchical custom setting? Okay. If I go to the custom settings and okay, hierarchical custom setting is another type of custom setting which gives you a special kind of flexibility to have uh, to have certain level of control over profile and users as well. So in the hierarchy, there are three things. One is org-wide default, and then there is profile level setting, and then there is a user level setting. User level setting is at the top, org wise setting is at the bottom, and profile level setting is in between. Okay, so if we talk about discounting model, let's say we have a company and we sell something. Okay, now org wide we have decided that everyone in the organization can give 10% discount org wide. Okay, so everyone, no matter what their role is, what their position is, they can offer 10% discount. But if there is a sales manager, if there is a user whose profile is sales manager, then he has power to give 15%. Okay, so he can offer 5% extra over what org wide default gives you. So there is, let's say, a sales representative, they do not have any extra power, so they will go with the org wide default and they can give 10% discount to their customers. But if there is someone whose profile is sales manager, they have more power, they can give 15% discount. Okay. And then there is a special manager, let's say John, he is a special manager, he has got much power, or let's say he is a VP or somebody. On his user record, he has power that he can give 20% discount. So we have three categories. Those who have no power, they are default user, they will use org-wide default discount, which will be 10%. But if there is a sales manager profile user, they have extra power to give 15%. And on top of that, if there is a user, John, who is like a super user, he can offer 20% discount. So if John logs in the system and try to give discount, by default, he'll be able to give 20%. But let's say if there is a user X, he's a manager, sales manager. He logs in the system and tries to give discount to customer, he can give 15% discount. And then let's say there is a user Y, he is just a sales manager. He has no additional power, like he is sales representative from profile and from user, there is no discount defined, then he will by default be able to give 10%, just like any other user in the organization. So we get three level uh, uh, three level categories in the custom metadata: default level, then profile level, and then the user level. User level has highest precedence. So if user level settings are defined for a particular user, then by default you will get the user level settings. Okay, now we will understand it from the discounting model example. So we will create a new custom settings and we will call it discounting model. Okay. And we will create it. Then I think you'll have more idea on this. Okay. Now, first we'll have to create fields. Okay. So we will create fields. There is just one field, discount. Okay. That is the percentage field. Okay. Now we have created just one field. Now let us create some record on it. Okay. So you can see default organization level value. We will have to first define a default organization level value, and then we can define it for the user and profile levels. Okay. So here I defined it as a 10 percentage. Okay, I am taking the most simplest example so that you'll be able to understand. Okay, later on I will show you a couple of other examples as well. So on the organization level, we have defined that default percentage is 10%. Now let us go to this new button and create some record. Here it will give you option location. In the location, you will have option of profile and user. First, we will set it for profile. Okay. So let's say if somebody is, I will check it for myself. Somebody is system administrator, then I will be able to give 20% discount via the virtue of my profile level custom hierarchical custom setting. Okay. So from my profile, I get the extra power to give 20% instead of 10%. Okay. Now, even though there are multiple user, I am a special user. Even though there are multiple system administrator, I am special. So on my user level, I get some extra permission. And by the virtue of that, I can give 30% discount. Okay. So for my user, you have seen that on my user level, I have 30% power to give 30% discount. By the virtue of my profile, I have power to give 20%. And by the virtue of org wide default, I can give 10%. But when I go and check what I will get by default, it will be 30% because user level settings will have the higher precedence. Okay. So now let us go to developer console and see how do we get these things in Apex. Okay. And what is the by default value I'm talking about? What are these things? Okay. Just a second. You want me to copy this and send it to you? Let me put it on chat. Okay. So anybody wants to use the same example, they can go through it. Okay. All right. Let's remove this. Whatever we have written. Now let's go to the custom hierarchical custom setting. Okay. Now you can see there are multiple methods. Get instance and get org default. Okay. So first we will see get org default. What do we get in the get org default? Let's see. For returns the custom setting data set record for the organization. So this will get the org default. Okay. Let's get it. It just give the one record, right? So let's copy the API name from here. Let's execute this. Hey, let's debug this. And we have got the org default value. So org default discount is 10%. Okay, so that's what we have got along with couple of other things. Okay, now that you have got the record, if you want to particularly get something, you can just use it the dot operator and get it from here as well. Okay, now our intention is to check other things as well. Get values by the user versus get values by the profile. Okay, so if I put my user ID there, I should be able to get the values defined based on my user setting. Okay, so similar to this, let's say we will use discounting model, user level settings, and we will use the Here, values. Then here I'll have to pass the user ID. Okay, let's pass the user ID. This is my user ID. Okay, now here you can see that it gave us discount as 30%, not the 10%, because I am getting the value defined on my user level. Okay, you can see discounting model user. So this will give you 30% instead of 10%. And similarly, if I pass the profile ID, just copy it and here let us change it to profile level settings. Instead of this, let me pass the profile ID. This should give us 20%. You can see this gave us 20%. So default you got 10, then you got 30% on user level, then you got 20% on the profile level. Okay, yeah, if Vaibhav is asking a question, if two people have same profile, they able to give, yeah, any, see, if you have defined the profile level settings in the custom metadata, anybody with same profile will be able to give that because you have defined it on profile. So if you want to refine it, you will give it on the user level. So first it checks from the user level if there is user level setting defined or not. If not, then it checks the profile level. If profile level settings is defined or not, then it goes to the default. Okay, but if you particularly want to mention which profile or which settings to go to, then you can use these methods to say ki I just want to fetch it from my user level. Okay. Now get all. Let's also check the get all. If get all works here or not. Do we have get all method? But if I have to fetch all the value, how will I get it? Right. So similarly, in the custom setting, we checked it right by getting all the things in the map. Let's try that if that works here or not. Okay, all values, and here we will write it down. Discounting model dot get all. Do we have anything like this in custom system dot debug? And the most important question from this topic comes as first is the scenario. They want to understand on which scenario you have worked. Okay, there is Method only supports the list type custom settings, so it does not support anything. Okay, it does not support like this. So we cannot have the same way we did for custom settings, list custom settings, created a map and get all the value. That is not available for the custom metadata. Okay, you can, however, query. Okay, so you can. Yeah, of course, in the real, when Madhu is asking a question, in the real world, we are not gonna give IDs hard. Of course, we are not going to give hard-coded ID. See, if you will be in the Apex code or if you will be in the LWC key, you will be able to get the user ID from your code. Okay, we will not give it hard-coded. That's never going to happen. So we need not even use. We have to dynamically fetch the user ID on the code, and then based on that, we'll have to dynamically find what is the percentage associated with that user, and then we will put it. Okay, so we need not to obviously hard code. I am hard coding just to show you that how it works. That is why I'm using the anonymous block. Okay, but obviously you will never hard code. Okay, yeah. Chaitanya is correctly mentioning that you can fetch the ID by user info dot get user ID. So user ID, fetching user ID is not a difficult part. Okay, don't worry. Understanding the logic is the theme here, not the best practices. Obviously, we will also talk about best practices in one of the sessions, but here we just want to make it very simple so that you get to know. Okay, don't worry about other things. You can obviously query it. So if I query it, select the. Okay, so what we did, we queried all the records and we've got all the records. 20%, 10%, 30%. Okay, we have defined only three, so we have got only three. But when you will define more for different profiles and different users, you will be able to get these. And to get the refined value, you will use the where clause where user ID is this or profile ID is this to get it. Okay, so that's how we're gonna get it, and that's how we use it. The main important question from this topic is not the theoretical question. It is always like everybody knows the theoretical aspects of custom metadata and custom settings. Okay. We have not covered the metadata yet, but it is pretty similar to what we did in the list custom setting plus additional advantages. Okay. So we'll be using same example country code model in the custom metadata as well, but it is pretty much similar to what list custom setting does with an added advantage of having extra data types when we create fields and couple of other additional things like you can have layouts as well. Okay, pick list field you will be able to get, of course. You can have a lookup relationship as well there. Okay, so there are a couple of advantage, but functionality remains same, uses remain same. Most of the time, interviewer expect you to give practical examples in this whenever they talk about custom settings and custom metadata. So if you have not worked in your real project, you have never got an opportunity to explain custom settings and metadata practically, then you will use classic examples of country code mapping and discounting. One for the list and list type of custom setting and custom metadata. For country code will work for both, and discounting model, which I have explained here, works well for the hierarchical custom setting. Hierarchical custom settings is very sometimes they try to trick you in hierarchical custom settings, but if your concepts are clear, you will be able to explain it. And we have shown it practically how we use it, how we define it, and how we get it in our code. Okay, sometimes they ask, can you get it in the validation rule? Yes, we can get it. You have to get the dollar setup and then you have to find it. Okay, you have to uh, you will have to do some research as well, like can we get it in the formula field, go and try to create. Can we get it in the form in the flow? Of course we can get. You go and try and create those things. Okay, so exercise for you guys will be to create these discounting model custom setting and country code model custom setting, and try to do all the R&D you can do, and come up with the questions tomorrow, where we will be covering custom metadata and solving all the questions you have. And then we will start the fundamentals of Sales Cloud. Okay. Now, practical example is very important in custom settings question. So try to help interviewer with the help of an example rather than theory, because everybody knows theory and the theory remains same, like we have limited data type, what are the advantages, disadvantages, all such thing. Everybody knows theory. If you'll give your example, it will be easier for you to explain such thing and in the most efficient manner. Okay. And then the second major question between this topic is difference between custom settings and custom metadata. Okay, so custom settings and custom metadata both are like object-like tables. Custom settings has two options, list and hierarchy, and custom metadata has only option which replicates what we do in the list custom setting. Whichever hierarchical custom setting does, custom metadata cannot do. In custom metadata, we have a larger data type than the custom settings we created. So in custom settings, we have limited data types option. In custom metadata, we have multiple options. Okay, we can create a valid, we can have a page layout as well. And we will talk about in detail. I have also provided my notes on this topic, uploaded that notes in the notes section, and we'll talk about differences more when we cover the custom metadata as well. Now, here are a couple of questions related to custom settings. We can go through them quickly or we can decide. Yeah, difference between get value and get instance is pretty much not very clear. I will explain more on this tomorrow. It will take some time for me to explain that thing. I don't have much time today, but this also is an important question. There are a couple of blogs available on this, so I will share those as well. For list custom settings, their behavior is same. For hierarchical custom settings, there is a slight difference, not much. Okay. These are theoretical question, guys. You will be able to understand these things. During, okay, Manan is asking during deployment of custom settings like list, do we use data import wizard or loader to load data or anything else? See, when we deploy custom settings, we can only deploy the metadata of it. Records will not get deployed, so we'll have to load the records there again in the other system. We can use data loader for that as well. Shikeb is asking one question. Go ahead, Shikeb.
Yeah, hi, Mohit. So, Mohit, we restrict the access of custom setting and custom metadata through the schema setting. So,
Mhm.
what does it mean? So, where we use that thing?
Okay, see, most of the time, custom settings and custom metadata we will be using in the backend in our Apex code. Okay, and it will run in the system context. See, we don't want anybody else, any business user to have access to those things, because those things are very, those things are basically the tools of our developers to play with their code. So anybody from the business should not be able to or should not have access to those things, because they are not for the business use cases. They are for the programming use cases, or you can say the configuration use cases. So those settings should be hidden. Those things should be hidden from the business user, because they are not for their use. They are not generic custom objects like lead or contact or account on which they need to see data. Okay. Okay. All right. Rutuja is asking, while writing test classes for custom settings and for custom metadata, what exactly difference we have? Okay. See, for custom settings, you will not be able to see the data um, uh, by default. I think you will have to set all data equals to true, something like that. But in the custom metadata, you even need not to use see all data equals to true. You can create data directly in the test classes, something like that. I will cover that when we come to the differences. But yes, there is a difference in terms of test classes, visibility of these records. I will come to that tomorrow. Okay. Mhm. Okay, once we cover the custom metadata, then we will cover the differences as well. There are couple of differences in terms of deployment as well. In the custom metadata, when you deploy, you will also be able to deploy the records of it. But in the custom settings, that is not an option. You will not be able to deploy the records. So you can only be able to. So when I say that records or something, what I mean is that when you will deploy a custom setting, you will be able to deploy the country code. Okay, and these fields will go to the will go as well, but the records which you created, like country one, country two, those will not be deployed. So you have to create these records in your target organization again. Okay, but in case of custom metadata, even the records can also be deployed. Okay, so that is additional advantage. If you have a very huge custom setting, then it will be really difficult for you to deploy those things. That will be a manual effort. Okay, so that is something which we avoid. That is why we use custom metadata. Hi, Shakib. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was asked one question like, can we also deploy the records of custom setting through the Copado?
Through the Copado, no. See, custom settings has limitations that we cannot deploy the record. So that limitation remains same. Then any external tool will not be able to eliminate the restriction of a platform. Okay.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah,
So we can't deploy through the Copado as well.
no, no, no. We will be able to deploy just the custom setting, the metadata of it, but not the records of
The record.
it. With the,
Okay.
even with the Copado. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
While writing test classes, yeah, we will cover that difference, Rutuja, related to the test class. It has something to do with see all data equals to true and false, but I will not comment unless I verify that. Okay. During deployment of custom thing. Yeah. Okay. Any other question, guys? See, there are various advantage metadata has over custom settings. We will talk about them. Okay. But what I want to understand is that will you guys, I mean, were you guys able to understand what is list custom setting and hierarchical custom setting? We have not covered metadata yet, so I'm not expecting that from you. But with example, will you be able to explain this thing in an interview now? That is my question. If that is answered and if that you will be able to explain, the purpose of this session is done. We will cover the differences tomorrow and custom metadata tomorrow with example, with again the practical approach we follow throughout. We will do the same thing. But what I want from you is that list custom setting and hierarchical custom setting with example, with definition, with proper explanation, you guys will be able to understand. I don't want to see anybody, missing that chance. Yep, few days ago, somebody, yeah, of course, we can use this to disable the trigger. Most of the time, we use custom metadata and custom settings to disable triggers. Not only triggers, validation rule as well. We use this thing too. And if everybody want, I can have a practical demo that on that as well. So whenever we have to bypass the trigger or deactivate the trigger in production, we cannot do it directly by the code. But if we use custom metadata properly, then we can have our code written in a way that custom settings or metadata controls the execution of it. So we will go to custom setting. Let's say there is a checkbox which is if false, triggers will not run. If true, then triggers will run. So we can make it false and true based on our need anytime. Okay. So that will be the use case of it. And that's a very easy approach to do. But the good thing is to, I mean, the thing which you need to remember is that before developing trigger, you will have to design it in such a way. Okay. It's not like you will put it in between somewhere and you'll have to design your trigger properly to include that custom settings. Okay. And then it will work like a charm. Right.